Welcome to Hops News, the trusted source in beer culture news. Here's your host, Jay Brew, with special guests, the Hoppy Mommy, Lucky, and Mash.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Hops News. I will tell you what, I'm kind of jacked about this one. This one's going to be a special one. We've kicked around this idea in the past, but we really haven't, I don't even think we've attempted to pull the trigger on anything like this before, but we'll every once in a while in our group chat see a beer news topic that comes across our social medias or emails blasts that I get with beer news on it, and I'll say to them, hey, it'd be kind of cool if we maybe try to get these guys on sometime. And usually, you know, as with life, everybody's working and keeping a home, and nobody really has time to do it. But I seen a headline that really caught my attention because it was happening here in North Carolina. Talked about a lawsuit with the North Carolina ABC, and I will tell you what, I'm one of them that have to try to buy my liquor from the ABC store here in North Carolina. So anybody that's willing to step up to those guys and go toe-to-toe with them, I'm definitely going to be interested in talking to them. So we'll get to our guest here in just a minute. But first, we're going to go around and check in with the crew. And I will tell you, everybody knew last week, going into the weekend, that I was headed to Miami to watch the Appalachian State take on Miami Hurricanes in Miami. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not a college football fan, it did not disappoint at all. Flew down early Saturday morning, landed in Miami. I landed in Miami about noon. When I took off out of the driveway here in Blowing Rock Saturday morning, it was 50 degrees. I had on a sweatshirt, was considering throwing on some pants. I think when I got off the plane in Miami, it was 89 degrees and about 84% humidity, and I knew that
That's what I was thinking.
I knew the football team was going to have a little bit of problems, but we went to the Hard Rock Stadium. I will tell you right now, that's an impressive complex. Not the biggest stadium we've ever been in as a small. A group of 5 team. We've spent some time in Tennessee and Penn State and that sort of thing. But beautiful facility. If you didn't watch the game, Appalachian State was leading at the half. Really lost the game, I guess, maybe in like the last 5 minutes.
Conservative.
Yeah. Last 5 minutes of the game, I think we lost the game, but a great showing. As anybody that was down there, obviously the Miami fans were very thankful that we let them win. But it was a good time. Had a great time. Good people. Had a great time with a lot of the Miami folks there in the parking lot. You could tell they were a little nervous going into the game, and they were nonetheless nervous walking out of it. I will tell you right now, I'm not really sure about the relationship with their coach down there, but there's a lot of dudes that want to do sexual things to Manny Diaz for some reason. I think he may be on his way out the door. He seemed to be the hot topic in standing at the urinals in the Hard Rock Stadium. But great time was had. I am actually sipping on one of our guests' beer here, Raging Bitch, and I think there's a little bit of a story with this one here as well. So we'll get to that story as well. I told him before I got on, I went to pick up some of their product today, and I don't think there was anything under 8% on the shelf. So I ended up picking up some 8%ers, and I think there's a 12%er in here that's going to have to close out the evening for me. But it'll be a rough morning on the way to work. Speaking of Miami, let's go check in with Hoppy down there in Orlando, Florida. Hoppy, how are things going in Orlando? Barely escaped with a win this weekend. You can have it.
You know, it was a good game, so I will say that. I very much so enjoyed it. It was much better than when we got whipped by Bama the week before. And, you know, last time we played you guys, it was, a bit of a blowout, so it was nice to have a good game. But I will say I prefer for the Miami Hurricanes and the Miami Heat to actually be down at the half, because whenever both of those teams are up at the half, the odds are not in their favor. They need to go into the locker room at halftime and, I don't know, get it together or something. Like when they're ahead, it's like they get too cocky.
Yeah.
Both of the teams do that. I don't know why. It's just my two favorite teams, and that's what they did. But
Yeah.
I'm sipping on some Orlando beer tonight from Sideward Brewing. It's called 10-4 Good Buddy. Very awesome go-to pale or IPA. Anybody who's in Orlando, this is one of my favorite breweries for IPAs. It's delicious, and they have boiled peanuts as well, which is another one of my favorites. But yeah, other than that, go Canes. So
Go Canes,
I'm jealous
yes.
I wasn't at the game.
Yes.
I grew up going to games.
Yeah, the last time we played you guys came up to Boone and you smacked the dog shit out of us, like 44-10. So I'll take a 23-25, barely squeaking by win in Miami any day of the week. But Hoppy, I'm not shitting you. As soon as I got off that plane, the Gold Bond turned to like fucking putty. I mean, it was.
When I get off. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The Gold Bond didn't hold up at all. As much as I used getting on the plane, it was a damn mess as soon as I got off the plane. As a matter of fact, I will tell you this because I'm not going to give you his name. A buddy of mine that flew down there, he flew into Fort Lauderdale, I think it was, and he said just the walk from the airport to the terminal, and then from the terminal to wherever he got on with the Uber, the dude had to go buy more underwear. Like literally sweat through his first pair of underwear already. He had to go to Walmart at the stadium.
That doesn't sound like he's healthy.
See, when I step off a plane and I feel that humidity, I'm like, oh, thank God I'm home. Because usually we travel to colder places.
That's horrible. Horrible. I'd move.
It's Joe Robbie Stadium. It's not Hard Rock. To me, it will always be Joe Robbie.
They played at Hard Rock. It is Hard Rock.
Yeah, it's Hard Rock
It will
Stadium.
always be Joe Robbie.
That's a pretty.
I'm with you.
Joe Robbie?
They changed it to Pro Player when I lived in Miami, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not calling it that.
Right. Well, what's funny though is Jay texted me asking for recommendations near Hard Rock, and so I was like, why don't you just eat at Hard Rock? Hard Rock. I thought he was talking about the hotel,
No.
and then I realized, yeah, he was talking about the stadium.
Yeah. It was kind of cool because the Dolphins play there too, right? So like
Yeah,
they literally transformed the stadium, I guess, between every game between Miami and the Dolphins. So when we got there, everything was Miami, all the screens and everything else that they had there, some of the signage out front. But beautiful stadium for sure. Great
Well,
stadium.
it used to be Miami Hurricanes used to play at the Orange Bowl, and then the Dolphins and the Marlins would play at Joe Robbie, and so you would have football. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You'd have football games on the baseball field.
Yeah.
Which
just
was
like
terrible.
Oakland used to do for the Raiders.
Yeah. So now where the Orange Bowl is the Marlins Stadium, which I haven't been to a game there yet, and I need to. I've heard it's gorgeous. But
Well,
yeah,
you can probably walk in. They might pay you at this point to go see a game.
probably. Well, they have a brewery attached to it too.
Yeah.
You got to get drunk to watch the Marlins play. too.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure.
we won twice and immediately sold all our players.
I've
That's
actually
it.
seen more Patriots games in that stadium than I've seen in New England.
Gosh.
I went and saw the
Isn't it like
Packers play at
50-50?
Hard Rock back in 2014.
Nice. Let's go check in with Mash out in Mountain Home, Idaho. Mash, you got snow out there yet or what?
No, it's going to be in the 60s
got
next week, which is
snow.
nice. It's starting to get wicked cool here, which I'm obviously, I'm all about. Like the first leaf falls, it's here. But yeah, no, fall is upon us. I'm drinking in Oktoberfest from a local beer or brewery out here because my parents haven't sent me a care package from back home yet. Still kind of waiting on my shipyard. I'm waiting on the harpoon and all the other stuff. So
He said wicked cool. He's from Billerica.
I am. I'm from Billerica, as my wife had once said. Good old Billerica, Massachusetts is where I'm from. So, but I'm here in Idaho at the moment. But you'll see, I got New England behind me. One of my wooden cutouts, New England backs there. I'm also drinking it because it's spooky season, guys. I had to get one of my spooky wine glasses out, so I've got the original horror movie. So that's exciting.
Spooky season. It's almost October, Mash.
I know. They have they're calling for extras for Hocus Pocus 2. They're filming in Rhode Island, and I'm like, God damn it! And now they're bringing active duty back to Pease up in Portsmouth. So I'm like, I'm wicked pissed because they moved me after a year, and we were supposed to be gone for 6 to 7 years. Now they're like, we're going back in June, and yeah, I'm not gonna be able to go back. So I'm kind of been salty this week. I've just been stewing in hate. So I'm gonna dive into fall. I got tickets. I'm gonna go see Boise State play on Saturday against Oklahoma State.
Nice.
Got tickets for that. My first time on the blue turf because I moved here right before coronavirus hit, and I graduated from Boise State, obviously, as well. So I didn't get to do the student tickets last year, which kind of was annoying. So I'm gonna go there. That's my weekend plans. I'm gonna hit up some breweries out here, say what's up to our good friends at Woodland Empire, and go watch a football game for the first time in a while in person. Feels kind of nice.
Yeah, man. Enjoy the hell out of it. That should be a good game. Boise State and Oklahoma State. That'll be a great game for you to watch.
I'm hoping they win, and if they do, they get that Big 12 invite. So for some reason, even as a kid growing up in Mass, I was always staying up late and playing video games and saw Boise State, after dark because they don't come on till 10 o'clock out there. And it's always been my life goal to catch a game on that blue turf for whatever reason. Ever since I was, grew up, and now I'm finally getting to do it. So I feel like that's a bucket list item personally for me.
How far is that stadium from where you live?
Oh, dude, it takes me, it depends. So the speed limit's out here are 80. So if you go 80, it takes you about 45 minutes to an hour. I drive, I'm not going to say I drive close. You drive a little
80?
faster. The speed limit's here are 80 because it's just a straight shot of nothing.
80?
You see cows on the
So
side of the
awesome.
road, like grazing. Like it is straight nothing out here, right? And so it takes me about...
Man, if you hit a cow at 80 miles an hour...
First of all, you better hope you die because it is a federal offense to hit a cow here in Idaho. You will pay thousands upon thousands in fines. So I'd rather be dead if I hit a cow personally.
Then have to pay thousands of dollars.
If you get in that trouble and you're choosing between death and thousands of dollars, I will lend you some money.
I'm calling my lawyer. Mark.
Yeah.
I'll give you some money rather than have you die over thousands.
That is
So
actually
you
a
do
federal
have
offense
children.
out here.
Your life
Yeah.
is worth more than thousands.
It's crazy
Yeah.
because you'll see them on the side of the road. They're just grazing. It's all free range, right? And like they've bought all the
Wow.
land between here and Boise. So you got like solar farms because it's sunny 99% of the year in this god awful state. And then there's just cows. They're grazing all year round, and you'll see them on the side of the mountains on the side of the road, and it's just crazy here. But it takes me 35 minutes to get to the stadium, and then my comic book shop's like right next door, and it's right in downtown, so you can walk, and in 10 minutes you can be at probably 7 different breweries. And this is also the first year that they're actually selling alcohol in the stadium as well, so you can get some beer in the stadium. And then they also have a Chick-fil-A at the stadium, so that's kind of a nice, halftime meal.
Yeah. Chick-fil-A in Boise State. That's pretty interesting. I didn't think they were that far out west, but...
Oh, yeah, there's about 5 or 6 Chick-fil-A's in Boise alone.
Nice.
And no Dunkin'
They're all
Donuts.
over here. There's no Dunkin'
That's
Donuts,
weird.
so which... Listen,
None?
None. Oh, dude, don't even
What
get
do
me
you drink?
started. Exactly. Thank you.
Like
Exactly.
most, I was
good
in the
coffee.
hospital.
Dunkin'
I was in the
coffee,
hospital with dehydration a few months ago, and they were like, "Did you drink today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I had like friggin' 4 large iced coffees from
Yeah.
Dunkies."
You go and get your large regular in the morning, right? On your way to work, I usually get like a bagel with cream cheese.
Go
and that's what
water.
starts the day. And I mean,
Donkeys.
that's what people don't understand. Like, there is no Dunkin' Donuts out here, and so I can.
How do you know where everything is? Like when you give people directions, you're like, you go past that house that used to be the gas station that the kids burned down, then you go to the Dunkies next to it. You take a right, you go past 3 more Dunkies, then you go to the Portuguese Dunkies, and then you go over to the the Dunkies where the Cape Verdean guy used to work. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, love it.
Sully lives behind that.
No, it's
Go in
like-
there and he'll hook you up.
And then you're like, no, you don't go to this. You don't go to this one because they're shit there, right? You got to go to the one that's up the road about a quarter of a mile up the road. You go to that one, and the stoned out teenagers, they make the best coffee at that one.
They do. They do. Like the legalization of marijuana has done more to improve Dunkin' Donuts than any other aspect of life.
Yeah.
Like when that kid is so happy and so high, you catch him on his morning wake and bake, you're getting entertained and waited on quick.
See, Mark, I have a Dunkin' Donuts jogger outfit. I got the Crocs, everything. I wore it to my Boise State graduation, actually. And they put me up on their Instagram, but they won't bring a damn Dunkin' Donuts out here, and then they won't respond to me since. So.
Yeah.
You should just open a bootleg one.
I know.
Yeah.
Right? Open one up like Lucy with the psychiatrist stand. And then when they sue you for trademark infringement,
Yeah.
I'll represent you, and we will
There you
settle
go.
for them opening a Dunkies in Boise.
Yeah, there we go.
Gee,
There we go.
I
Hey, maybe
really weird.
we shouldn't talk to Mark and drink at the same time. We might all end up in some trouble before it's over with.
I tend to say, hey, I got a wicked fun idea, and then next thing I'm saying to everybody is run.
Yeah,
I have a beer brewing right now. It's a pumpkin maple. I got Maine maple syrup, but it has fresh Dunk's coffee grounds in it that I'm brewing with. And so I'm
Wow.
like, look, if you won't come here, I will find a way.
So just put their label on it, Mash. Let's put their label on it and put it out there for the world to see and see what
I'm
happens.
just gonna go ahead and start being like, yeah, they sponsor our show now. You didn't know.
No, look, if you get it, it's like you ever see that movie? You probably haven't. The Mouse That Roared, where
No, I haven't.
this little Peter Sellers was in it, and there was this little country called Kreplakistan that wanted money, so they declared war on the United States, figuring, hey, we'll win. It'll be like in World War II. They came and gave all this money on the Marshall Plan.
Nice.
But then they accidentally get a hold of like this super destructive weapon, and then the United States has to surrender. It's
Yeah.
the Mouse That
I have the
Roared.
power to hold Dunkin' Donuts hostage, and I can have them bend to my. All right.
Yeah. That's exactly what I said
like
too. That's yep.
That's all I'm taking away from this conversation.
That's it.
We better get to our guest, or we're not going to have any time for him to speak. So, Mash, appreciate you joining us out there in Mountain Home. Hey, our guest of honor tonight is Jim Caruso, CEO of Flying Dog Brewery up there in Frederick, Maryland. Jim, appreciate you joining us, man.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I've been waiting to crack open the first beer of the day, which is Snake Dog for me, which I've been
Nice.
drinking every day for 25 years here at the brewery. So,
Oh,
cheers,
wow.
everybody.
Yeah, cheers, Jim. Good. Appreciate you joining us. So, Jim, before we get started into what caught our eye with Flying Dog last week, I guess it was, one thing that we like to talk about our guests, especially the guests that are in the beer industry, is kind of what was your start? What was your first beer that you remember drinking? And you got a lawyer here with us tonight, so he can cover up anything that may be used against you at a previous time or a future time. But what was the first beer you remember drinking?
Well, there must be a statute of limitations. But
Sure.
my
You're good.
grandparents, my grandparents both came from Europe, from Russia and Italy, and they still thought the water was bad. So I had little glasses of beer from age 5 on. I think it was Duquesne beer back then. But my early beers were Coors, Rolling Rock, that sort of stuff, and then my first craft beer was actually Sierra Nevada. In the 80s. So
Yeah. Well, that was going to be the follow-up question, and Sierra Nevada seems to be kind of the gateway beer for a lot of people, to go from the domestic beers. But you obviously had a cultured childhood because you're the first person that's ever answered it with Duquesne. That's the first one that we've had was their first beer experience. So you obviously grew up cultured with beer from the beginning.
Yes, I believe I did. Very fortunate.
Yeah, that's nice. So how did you go from the 5-year-old at grandparents' house drinking the beer to the Sierra Nevada to now in the beer industry? What was your briefly just give us kind of a rundown of how you got involved in the beer industry?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my early career was in the corporate world, and I'm sort of not proud to say that my goal was to be president of a public company. I didn't really care that much what it was. It ended up being in the restaurant business. Really learned a lot. It was an excellent experience, and then decided I wanted to be in the world of entrepreneurs and got into the beer business in the mid-90s in Denver, Colorado, and that was in the brew pub business. Became partners with John Hickenlooper. We had the Wynkoop Brewing Company, and then we were acquiring historic buildings around the country, and these were in core urban areas. And our solution to preserve them was to turn them into brew pubs. These were big buildings, 30, 40,000 square feet. We were one of the first to reintroduce the pool hall to America, these higher end pool rooms, comedy clubs. And then we got into the manufacturing business in 1995 and had the first Flying Dog Brewery in Denver, moved to a second location in Denver, and then moved out here to Maryland back in 2006.
Very interesting. That the whole bringing the old buildings back now in the brewery industry is obviously kind of mainstream, especially here in North Carolina. A lot of the big mills, the textile mills in North Carolina that were long abandoned, now you'll find breweries, brew pubs that are popping up in anyone that they can get. I mean, because they're getting just about the land given to them, the building, the land. They can work out a lot of good arrangements with the local EDCs that will basically give them the property to develop it and to use it again. So it's kind of interesting to hear it have gone on that far back, and you kind of be maybe one of the first ones that was kind of pioneering that movement in the beer industry.
Yeah, it was great fun too. In fact, I spent a fair amount of time in the triangle out there, kicking around in those old tobacco buildings. I like those a lot. Yeah, we had the old theater in Omaha, the first car dealership in Des Moines, up in we're part of the Beach Chalet property in San Francisco. Had a historic building in Colorado Springs. It was great fun. And a lot of times when you talk about they'll give it to you, this was back in the 90s when those core urban areas were still abandoned. And, we would lease a building for $1. It'd be 30,000 square feet. Now, there were some issues with it. There wasn't much traffic down there. Now it's all gentrified, but it was a fantastic experience, especially to be in beer at that time.
Yeah, for sure. So you get to the point now you're the CEO of Flying Dog Brewing. Obviously, we'll talk about this a little bit as well. This is not your first go-around with some First Amendment issues. But recently, the North Carolina ABC banned one of your labels. Tell us a little bit about the start of this process. I spent some time in the beer industry myself, and I understand the whole label approval process and the time, the money, everything that goes into it. From my understanding, when I worked in the beer industry, you had to get approvals from every state that the beer crossed and was sold. Is that still the case, and is that what kind of led to this being an issue for what you guys do at Flying Dog and what you were doing with the approval process for this brand?
It sure is, and you're exactly right. So we need federal approval for all labels and recipes, which is standard procedure. And then the states also, you register the beers there, and many states have an approval process. And when we submitted the art, the label for Freeze in Season, and it's crazy, right? A cartoon character gets banned. But we submitted the label. It had, like most of our beers, art from Ralph Steadman, original art from Ralph Steadman. We submitted it, and it got kicked back. And of course, it was passed along to me, and a label was banned. And I'm looking at it. Guys, I saw the label when the art came in, and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't have my glasses on. It was a little bit blurry. So I thought, the arts can't be the art. There must be something in the copy. So I read the copy. There's nothing in there. I go back to the art, and if you squint, you may see this little icicle or little tail thing between the legs of this cartoon character. And I thought, it can't be that, right?
Well, it is cold.
I mean, this is 2021. Yeah, maybe it's a little dripping thing. I have no idea.
I've seen so much worse beer label wise, or even not even beer label, just pictures on like breweries pages.
Bart Simpson showed more in the Simpsons movie.
Yeah,
just turn on the TV at any point, you see worse.
But you're showing the label. You're showing the label as WRAL showed it, aren't you?
Yes, I believe so.
They actually fuzzed out the little, as I called it in court, the dangly wangly, which was the first time I got to use that term in court ever.
The dangly wangly.
Yeah,
We'll hear it.
So we zoomed in a little bit. We'll see what it does look like. There's something there.
Doll. Don't you? But isn't it funny? Don't you feel like to even see that? You got to be like one of those people back in the 80s playing records backwards, listening for like, I love Satan and penises. I love Satan and penises. Look, my God, I can't believe Debbie Gibson is saying I love Satan and penises. She's playing backwards.
It's like trying to figure out the words to Louie Louie, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can quite figure it out.
Yeah. So we brought Marc Randazza. Marc Randazza from he's a managing partner with Randazza Legal Group. obviously this is Jim's strong guy, right? This is the guy with the muscles that
Muscle.
yeah, this is the muscle in the conversation that
Luca Brazzi.
yeah, this is the muscle that Jim sends in to handle the light work. Mark, tell us a little bit about the where we're at. I guess where we've been, where we're at. I think there's been some changes as of the first time that I contacted Jim. Maybe within even the past week or this week yet, that there's been some changes in this case as well.
Oh, where we've been in the case, like not on the earth. Good.
Yeah, nothing.
Right, yeah, it was gonna be a wicked long story. Yeah, well, it was we sued them, and like happens a lot when you sue the government, they scramble to avoid getting embarrassed. So 2 days before the preliminary injunction hearing, all of a sudden they changed their mind and said, "You're approved. It's okay. Everything's fine. Can we all go home now?" And if you've ever seen Bronx Tale, there's that scene where the bikers come in and they act a little rude, and then he locks the door and says, "No, you just can't leave." Yes. And I'm not going to reveal attorney-client privilege conversations. But when I called Jim and said, "Is that good?" I will translate his statement to, "Now they can't leave." So
yeah.
The really the funnest part of the whole thing is we wound up having this argument with the Attorney General of North Carolina's office arguing it, and they said we had to ban this label to protect the children. It was we have a compelling interest in protecting children. Now, this is the children who are out buying six-packs of expensive beer, right?
Yeah. Out there in North Carolina is just picking up beers at wherever.
Yeah,
Even if he was, he has a penis.
Right? Yeah,
How dare you?
Imagine. So but then what's funny is the judge just deadpanned. He said, "Well, if that's the case, then why'd you approve it 2 days ago?"
Yeah.
And I've never, I've been, every lawyer gets caught with their pants down at one point, once a year or so, and just has to really scramble and throw in a big word or something and hope the judge doesn't look up what it means. And he, to his credit and his honor, he just went I wasn't there. Then he just moved on.
He took the shaggy approach.
I very, very much respected the fact that he didn't try to BS anybody. He was just like, I don't know, I got nothing. But
I will tell you, I very much respect the fact that you guys haven't let off the throat yet, because as we chatted just briefly before we came on, the issue, and I don't want to speak for Jim, but I think the issue overall that society has with benches, people that sit on a bench that try to persuade society or protect society or whatever that word is that they're trying to justify their job, is that it has to be stopped, right? Unless you're the guy, unless you're the entity, the business that says enough is enough. It's obviously in our favor now. When are they going to stop, and when are they going to do it to you again? So you got to start the process all over again. So my hat's off and much respect to say, hey, I appreciate what you've done, but we're not done. You guys can be done, but we're not done of the matter at all, because as we all know, it's just a matter of time before there's the next Jim in the door that's got to start this process all over again.
Flying Dog is a constitutional protection company that finances itself through the sale of beer.
Yeah, correct. I was really surprised to learn that North Carolina has banned over 200 beers. That is very high for any state, including like Cantillon, two of my one of my favorite Belgian breweries. It's been around since 1900. And they banned 2 of those. One with mannequin pies, the little statue that's in the Grand Place there, the little boy pissing, totally innocuous. And then the Rosé Gambrinus, which it's just a kind of a pastel of 2 lovers, and it's really pretty innocuous. Shocking. It's shocking. It's shocking that a couple of people can block 6 million adults in North Carolina from having the choice of what beers they want to choose from. And the surrounding states, you can buy them. This is so at one level, as you're saying, it's about a beer label for sure. That's the center of the controversy. The fact that they lift the ban on freezing season, the law's still in place, and that's what they lean on to justify this behavior to just impose their personal preferences and reject labels. So that law has to go away. That law needs to be struck down.
Yeah, without a doubt. And obviously, Mark, so that the approach here, right, is to get a judgment, right, that later then becomes precedence for other breweries of this situation, right, that they can go back and lean on the case.
Well, our mission is to strike down the regulation itself, to get rid of it. And part of the mission in constitutional litigation is that you want to create precedents, because if they're doing it here on beer labels, for me, almost every constitutional case it's not really about what I'm trying to actually protect. I mean, this time it happens to be some content that I happen to like, and I don't think anybody reasonable could have a problem with it. But usually I'm representing people with extremely objectionable content, things that I personally don't like and don't want in my home. But that's not the point. You've got to defend that. This is, look, America is an idea. Yeah. It's not a place, right? Because Hawaii is in America. Alaska is. Key West is. It's not a place. We're not like Austrians, where we're a collection of ethnicity, of a common ethnicity. Like, all we are is an idea, and all that idea is the Constitution. And if that idea fades one bit, it's like every one of us fades. And that's why I get up in the morning. That's why I do what I do, and that's why I love doing this for a living. So, no, it's got nothing to do with breweries. It's got nothing to do with beer. It's got nothing to do with this art. It's got to do with, hey, our basic freedoms. And I don't say that to be hokey. That is. Yeah. Every one of these cases to me is, this country's been really damn good to my family since we got off a donkey cart in Palermo and got on a boat. Every one of these cases I do is a small installment payment for that gratitude and that debt that I owe it.
Yeah, definitely. And so from what I know, and this is just me speaking, one of the most difficult laws to I guess prove and probably defend is obscenities, right? Because I think I heard it in one of the law schools early in law enforcement, is it's very hard to define. You can't define it, but you know it when you see it, right? And that may be the case still, is that there's really no clear definition other than when a group of people, whether it's a judge or a jury, when they see it, they know it, right? But this is obviously not a situation where this label even comes close to approaching anything that you would consider that.
No, not at all. I mean, I would have no worry about my children seeing this. Yeah, it's a cartoon figure.
Yeah.
And like somebody said, Bart Simpson showed more.
Yeah, definitely. And I will tell you what, you'll see more on any TV network that you tune into right now. I mean, there's more of it on free networks right now on TV than anything that you'll see in that label ever.
See more on me if we weren't on the video.
So Jim, this is obviously, I alluded to it in the beginning. This is not your first go around, and obviously Mark alluded to it in his conversation. What other First Amendment issues have you ran into at Flying Dog Brewing?
Well, with our very first label from Ralph Steadman, actually, and he was painting it. It was Road Dog. He was painting it live on the BBC. Ralph lives just southeast of London. He was in his studio. The BBC was painting, BBC was filming, and he was painting the label for Road Dog. And he's talking about my good friend Hunter S. Thompson wrote an essay for the release of this beer. And in that essay, Hunter used the phrase, "Good people drink good beer." So Ralph's talking to the BBC about his friend Hunter, good people drink good beer. And he says, and I'm doing this art for those some boys in Colorado who want to open a brewery, and they're going to make good beer, no shit. And he said it just to kind of poke the BBC. And we got the art. We loved it. Ran it on the labels. And another brewery filed a complaint with the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division. They always have words in like enforcement and control. It's never the Liquor Support Division or something like that. And they said, that's obscenity. And the basic response was, "You're shitting me, right?" They said no. And if you don't pull that beer from the market, we're going to suspend your license. Now, there's two issues here. One is the crony capitalism and collusion. I am pro-free enterprise. I am not pro-business. I don't like the crony capitalism, the collusion. I don't want any part of special interest legislation, none of it. But here's a case where a competitor uses the government to beat up on their competitor. That's just the way it goes. The ACLU, back when they were a little more into the First Amendment than they are now, worked with us. We took the case to the Colorado Supreme Court and won. What we did in the interim, though, we took the Road Dog label that said "Good beer, no shit," and we ran "Good beer, no censorship" for, I don't know, it was like 4.5 years before we announced it. And it's we don't brew it year round right now, but it's a legacy beer that we bring back from time to time. And it was one of the first two labels. The other one was right behind me. The Doggy Style was the two first labels from Ralph back in 1996.
Nice.
And then it seems like it's like the cicadas or something. It's not a 7-year cycle with liquor commissions that they just want to ban something. And it's us. I've never been charged with obscenity. I'm sure I could beat the rap. But
yeah.
The next case came up for our 20th anniversary beer. We were messing around with Snake Dog, which is our classic IPA, and we put some Belgian yeast in it and some different hops. We used El Diablo yeast. It's a aggressive yeast. It ferments about 30% faster than our regular Chico yeast that we use in Snake Dog. And we used it in Raging Bitch. It was delicious. Changed the hops to Amarillo. And we were looking for a name for it. You know, it's kind of cycling through like we all do, spitballing, come up with names. And, you know, as you probably know, if you Google a beer, if you think of a beer name and Google it, it's taken. There's probably 1 million beers have been released. So we like the dog names. Bitch is a dog. It's a Raging Yeast, Raging Bitch. That sounds pretty good. Wow. I was talking to my young marketing person. She said, I like it, but let me check with my mom. And she came back the next day. She goes, we love it. We love it. Checked with all the ladies here at Flying Dog. Ran the beer. TTB approved it, no issues. All the states we applied for approval, and this was in 2009, approved it. Michigan didn't. And as you may know from the approval process, you send the paperwork in over and over and over. You know, compliance cost us a couple $100,000 a year, but we get the paperwork back. Nobody notices that Michigan checked off not approved. We shipped some beer to the state. I'm driving down the highway 11 years ago. It's a beautiful, beautiful summer day. And I get a call from the brewery, from the receptionist. She said, hey, sorry to bother you, Jim, but got a call from Michigan. And if you don't have all of the Raging Bitch picked up in 24 hours, the state police are going to confiscate it. And they're saying you could be charged with a felony. And we had accidentally shipped it to Michigan because nobody noticed on the paperwork it was disapproved. So we pulled the beer back, no issue, you know, and I checked in with Michigan, like, why is it rejected? Is it the art? Is it the copy? You know, 2 inflammatory words? Is it the name? They said, we can't tell you in person. You have to schedule a hearing. So I scheduled the hearing. And it was the same people. It was the same people who rejected it. And I'm not an attorney like Mark here, but I said, it seems to me that an appeal should be by a third party, you know, not to the same people. They said, well, consider this a reconsideration. Okay. And they said, we want to assure you it's not about the First Amendment. And,
yeah,
you know,
I love when they say that.
Yeah.
Always say that when it's a First Amendment issue.
It's not about the First Amendment. I'm like, let's get to it. Let me understand what it is, because we're not changing the art. It was a tortuous, pretty hour-long conversation where it was everything from, do you know that Oprah Winfrey does not allow that word on her show? I'm like, I didn't know that, but so what? So what, right?
So she's the standard? Is she the standard in Michigan?
Did you know that the Westminster Kennel Club no longer uses that word? No, but children throughout the Midwest do. But who cares about the Westminster Kennel Club? I'm interested in the Constitution. Like the oath you took that thing to uphold, I'm interested in that. How's that going? And anyhow, they decided to support their original decision. The lawsuit was filed in federal court in Grand Rapids. We didn't win that one. Went to the Sixth Circuit, won that fight, and Michigan settled. And I used the proceeds. They weren't huge, but I used the proceeds to create the First Amendment Society, bring speakers, professors, law professors, speakers at the Weinberg. We're in the process of creating a scholarship for investigative journalism. Things have been on hold since COVID because these are in-person events, but we'll have them back on track once meeting in person and confined spaces is back in vogue.
Man, that is so. You go from all of these challenges now to creating an organization. I guess their mission with investigative journalism is really accountability, right? Making sure that people are being held accountable for some of the asinine decisions that they hand down. I would have liked to seen the look on your face when they told you that Oprah Winfrey didn't allow that word on her show.
Well, I didn't have an attorney. I went up there by myself. I'm a good-natured guy. I'm cheerful. I'm optimistic. I don't get all hung up on this stuff. Of course, I was looking like 10 feet up. They were on this bench up there. But,
of course.
It's what
the Beer Enforcement Commission is up high like that.
Yeah.
Like they're in the Council of Ricks on Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
But similar to Mark, my grandparents all came through Ellis Island. When this freedom of speech as you know it today, Mark can probably speak to us better. It probably began in the the 40s with this Bridges case in California, according to Floyd Abrams. But it really came to be when I was growing up with the civil rights movement and so forth. So I watched the development of it, and being from immigrant grandparents that didn't even speak English, it was a concept I couldn't understand, this freedom of speech. But what I learned over the years is it really is the master freedom, the foundational freedom, because when you think about it, those 5 freedoms embodied in it, the right to free press and free speech and petition the government and assemble. If you didn't have that, you would not have political freedom. You would not have economic freedom. You would not have individual freedom. So they're all important.
Yeah.
It happens to be the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights, to the Constitution. But if you lose that, you don't really have much. And these battles are at the margin. If you're waiting till you're defending some mainstream issue, it is way too late.
Way too late.
That's what I say, yep.
The door has shut, So where there's smoke under the door, the fire's not far behind, and you need powerhouses like Marc Randazza here to, you got to call Luca. You got to do the dead kick.
You gotta send in the muscle sometime. I'm sure
I got dragged back into the First Amendment.
Yeah. I'm sure when they get the letter from Mark, obviously the North Carolina ABC kind of learned their lesson. They get the letter from Mark and they're like, oh shit.
I don't send letters.
I don't send letters.
You don't send letters?
Yeah, I turn down clients all day long who call me. They're like, hey, I'll pay you $1,000 to write a letter. I'm like, no. Yeah. Because if you're not prepared to I'm not sending a letter that says we're going to sue you if you don't do what we want to do. Yeah. And then I don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. So I just opened up. A matter of fact, before we jumped on here, I opened up a Raging Bitch. Was my first Flying Dog beer. Excellent beer. The second one that I just opened up here is the Double Dog, the Double IPA. And I will tell you, there's one thing that I judge all my IPAs on, which in today's time with IPAs is very difficult, but it's the malt balance. Jim, this is a phenomenal double IPA. From the nose to the palate, you really get the balance of the malt and the hops in this beer. But being that it's a Wednesday night and I got to work in the morning, an 8%er followed up by a 12%er. This is going to make in the morning a little bit of a challenge. So it's a good damn thing I've got my happy hour vitamins that I'm going to enjoy tonight. Because
I thought it was Thursday for a second.
We do lean toward the higher ABV beers, but we just released a non-alcoholic beer, first time ever this summer, Deep Fake. It has a lot of flavor to it, and given the Maryland summers, 95 degrees and 85% humidity, kind of like we were describing in Miami, we're doing some lower sessionable beers, but our team here leans toward the higher ones. We have a Triple Dog coming out.
Ooh.
We just did the test batch. We used distiller's yeast. Got it fully attenuated down to about 0. It's 18% it clocked in at.
This is a triple IPA?
Wow.
Yes, it's a triple IPA, and it's
that's like
distiller's
barley
yeast.
wine stats.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely that ABV. It's a little boozy, but it doesn't have the sweetness in it. It's nice and dry, and I'm eager to get it out there. Because it varies so much batch to batch, there's a QR code on it. You have to scan that to see what the ABV is of that particular batch.
So what's the distribution footprint going to be like for that one, Jim?
It'll be most of our core, so that would include North Carolina. Of course, I don't think we've submitted the label yet, but I looked at it. I don't see any obscenity. Not sensing that it's going to be banned, but I never would have guessed that freezing season would have been banned either.
Yeah, maybe you might just want to put on the next one that seems a little bit on the edge, sponsored by Marc Randazza, and then they won't even.
Yeah. They'll be like, that's an obscenity.
Yeah. Maybe that'll prevent a lot of work. So, Jim, what? Go ahead, Hoppy.
I just had a quick question because I was talking to you before we went live, and I mentioned, I have your label on my table right here. Are you coming? And you said you used to distribute in Florida, but then you kind of hinted like you're coming back.
Yes. So, in fact, we're actively talking about that. We were in 48 states and 23 countries, and about 10 years ago, I decided to really, really concentrate on the Mid-Atlantic and East Coast. And so we were like a mile wide and an inch deep. Now we're an inch wide and a mile deep. But I've been expanding up and down the East Coast, and I'm in active talks with wholesalers in Florida to begin distributing there again.
Nice.
Very nice. I've used that saying a few times. Yeah, get them in a Dunkies. There you go. Hey, work with Dunkin' Donuts and get some coffee beer out.
I know. I need that the triple. I mean, I love triples and doubles, and
I
that
need
sounds
one of you
like
guys
my
to
kind of
send me
beer.
that because obviously I don't get anything out here in Idaho. God forbid they send anything out in Idaho.
Yeah.
But you can pretty much guarantee if we do a beer that we all like, the brewers are immediately working on a double or an imperial version. That's just the standard procedure here.
The nature of the business there. That's
like,
awesome.
You know how we can make this better?
Yeah.
But we could really take it up a notch here.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
So, Mark, they've retracted on their ban of the label. I guess they've
so far
have since approved it, right?
Yes,
you guys are still.
For the first time, Jim was saying earlier, like over 200 of these things have been rejected. Every appeal has been unsuccessful. But for the first time in their history, they changed their mind here and just on their own, out of the goodness of their hearts, decided to approve the label. But that doesn't end the case. The doctrine of voluntary cessation says that the case goes forward. Government can't just censor you, and then when you sue them, say, sorry, won't do that anymore. That's just not how it works. Now you just can't leave.
Yeah. So kind of what's the next steps in the case, and I guess give us, obviously, next steps to finality of the case can be a number of things, but what is kind of the next steps from here, and what is kind of the end results that you guys are hoping to achieve in the suit that you have currently?
Well, the next steps, I don't really want to kind of open up my playbook here while I'm the game's still going on. But the end result is of course to win. And what does victory look like? Victory looks like a deletion of that statute from the books. That's it. We're not backing off for anything less than that because, it's kind of like in Saving Private Ryan. They're walking past the machine gun nest and say, "What are we going to do? Leave that for the next guy?" We're not leaving this for the next guy. And, you also never know. Every First Amendment victory paves the way for more expression. So if every time an American citizen or company met First Amendment resistance, it fought back, that's what I am trying to achieve. I'm trying to achieve a world where I am irrelevant, where I have to go find something else to do for a living because there's just no First Amendment violations anymore. Happy I would be to go apply for unemployment and have them go, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm the last First Amendment lawyer," which sometimes I feel like I am. But if I say, we're the buggy whip manufacturers of law, boy, what a great star-spangled freaking day that would be, huh?
Yeah, we'll never get there. Obviously, we'll never get there. As Jim said, we'll still fighting marginal battles. Those marginal battles are going to occur every day, and it's going to take efforts like this to keep them marginal. right? Otherwise, you take your eye off of that target and off of that accountability, and they're going to be all over it. So it's kind of fitting. I like the grunt style. I'm not sure if you've heard of grunt style, their T-shirts and kind of their military apparel. But I recently picked up a shirt, and I wore it today. It says, "Fuck your feelings," if you can see it, and it's definitely something that's has been of use here recently. So it's I get it, right? The beer for one is not for everybody. Everybody may not be attracted to your label, but there's one thing in a free society we should be able to do is to reach our market, and it's up to us to determine who our market is. It's not for some people that are sitting behind an ABC commission to determine what our market is and what they're going to be interested in. So again, hats off to that approach and continue to do what it is that you guys are doing there. Jim, what's kind of your, you've been in the beer business a long time. What is your, what's the next 10 years or 20 years of Flying Dog and Jim Caruso's beer industry life look like?
Well, I'm on the die-on program as I'm on the other side of approaching 100 here. But yeah, I love the business. We're launching ready-to-drink cocktails probably in the next month or so.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's an interesting aspect to the business. We weren't that much interested in seltzer. We're messing around with cider. We've been doing that for a couple of years. So I think the Beyond Beer, like some other breweries are doing, is what we're doing. But beer is our core business. We're not really deviating from that. And when you look at our footprint, we still have 20 states that we can re-expand in. Internationally, we sell internationally, but I haven't put a lot of emphasis on it. We began ramping that up. We were one of the first craft beers to go international in 2004, but COVID has shut down our travel for the moment, so that's a little bit on hold.
Yeah. And I loved your analogy. A mile wide and an inch deep is where you felt you were at before, and now you're an inch deep and an inch wide and a mile deep. There's been a lot of, obviously, in the beer industry that has happened quite a bit leading up to the COVID issues, right? A lot of these behemoth craft beers that were distributed nationwide have retracted and found themselves more regional again. What does the retraction look like for you? And it's kind of interesting is that it appears to me that you've kind of refound yourself, right? Found the market that you're, very dialed in that you're going to approach now that you're expanding again. What's kind of been that progression for you guys at Flying Dog?
Yeah, we're the oscillating universe. So you have the sine and the cosine wave that overlap. So when everybody was expanding nationally, we were focused on being a regional powerhouse. Now that people are contracting, I'm expanding from a base of strength. So we're just like off 90 degrees on this whole thing. And I love the East Coast. I was born and reared in Ohio, lived across the U.S., a little bit in Europe, but the East Coast is where we're at. I have the strategy really from Maine down to Florida and maybe west to Ohio, and that's what we're focused on.
Yeah.
And by the way, that includes 200 million people. So it's a pretty good market.
Yeah. Even if you get just a fraction of that number, it's a pretty big number for sure. Yeah. I was involved in a brewery that had partners like Widmer and all of the Konas and the craft brew alliances of the world. And they obviously were some of the first to say, man, this national market's not working. We've got to go back to being regional again and being relevant in within a region, which obviously in the craft beer space now is that's where people are finding themselves. It's very interesting that you found yourself on the exact 90 degrees of that. And obviously there are people that can navigate that and make it and really use that as a time to expand again like you guys have and get that beer out there. But like you said, there's a lot of people west or east of the Mississippi. There's a ton of people that you can sell beer to, and even if you reach a fraction of those people that are in those populated areas, you're going to sell a shit ton of beer. So keeping that close is definitely an important strategy, and obviously you've been tremendously successful. I've seen Flying Dog brewing beer on the shelves for years. I think ever since I've been in North Carolina. So obviously doing great stuff, putting out a great product, no doubt. And like I said, it's for me, an IPA has got to be balanced, and you guys are definitely hitting that mark. With that, do you guys do any of the crazy hazy, hop head beers, or you guys try to stick true to style, or do you get into any of the trendy stuff?
We have a very active, innovative brewing program. We have an innovative brewer who that's all he focuses on. So yeah, we do our fair share. We probably introduced 15 pretty experimental and crazy beers. This year we'll have an Orange Crush. That's like the drink of Maryland, orange juice, triple sec, lemon lime. We got the Triple Dog coming out. We've got Cream Team, which is Oreos and milk, lactose-based beer. The Dark Berry Sour in the works. We have Field Notes. We've been working with the University of Maryland for 4 years on reintroducing hops into Maryland. So we use that crop to dry hop that beer. We've got a Breakfast Stout coming out. That's another 9.5% beer, lactose. It's got a lot of milk in it. Just introduced Hop Electric, which is another hazy IPA, pretty juicy and fruity. So yeah, we keep doing that. But the 90% of our sales are from the mainline beers, plus the seasonals like the Coffee Stout, pumpkin beers, Oktoberfest. Not too different from a lot of the big breweries.
Very nice.
I if we want to provoke a label challenge, I got an idea for Cream Team.
Oh God!
What I tried to do.
Oh,
Go on.
Yeah. Hey, yes, this could be fun. This could be fun. I like it, Mark. I like where you're headed with this one. Can we get a Hops News collaboration with Mark and Flying Dog with Cream Team? We'll all go down.
I just made a note. We already have the concept. I'm going to pose it to the team tomorrow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Leave it to the lawyer, right? Leave it to the lawyer to want to poke the bear.
So, I just want to say I think it's really awesome, though, that you're making the comment about, we're paving the way, because you guys are a big brewery that's been around for a while, and there's so many other little guys that just have to roll over because it's between rolling over or shutting down. Kudos to you guys. And, Jay made the comment early on, often we see these news stories and we want these breweries on, and we had Sawstone on last summer when Stone first filed that lawsuit against all of them, and they're like, when they said their barrel system, it was, barely above a homebrew system. So it's nice that you have the means and that you're fighting the good fight. So I think that's awesome. I can't wait to get your beer back in Florida.
Yes, I'll make sure I email you.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was in the beer industry, to give you a little heads up, we battled with the North Carolina ABC as well over a representation of the North Carolina flag on a beer, and obviously, when, as Hoppy said, when you're a small brewery, you just bend over and say, okay. You're barely making enough money to pay bills and payroll, let alone to try to even approach the level of filing anything against those guys. But yeah, to being a guy that's been there, kind of came up in the beer world and had those battles. It definitely means a lot to see guys like you that actually take the time and care instead of just saying okay and moving on to the next challenge. But my hat's off to you guys and hope that you continue. And nothing leads me to believe that you won't continue that fight as you guys have for decades.
Right.
Hey, can I plug a little something here? Because you're talking about the fight. I know I'm getting the credit for being.
Oh my
the
God,
First
you're
Amendment
fighting
guy.
Logan Paul too.
There we go.
Guys, I'm the guy who's doing the First Amendment case here, but I did have other guys on my team. There's a lawyer, Greg Doucette, who's been my local counsel, who helping me navigate the federal court there, because a lot of law is knowing the local judges and knowing the local kind of customs, and Greg navigated me through that. But then there's another guy. He's a young guy. His name's Michael Boyer. He's an attorney. His law firm is called Carolina Craft Legal, and all he does is craft beer law in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're people who watch this care about that, this is the guy that if you have, I mean, call me for a First Amendment issue on a label, but anything else to do with the beer industry, you call this guy. He is, I mean, he just was pulling. I just asked him to come along for the ride because I thought this is a case he ought to be on. And man, he is just dumping data on me like crazy that made this so much stronger of a case. So Carolina Craft Legal, probably it is my favorite beer law firm in the world.
Nice.
So, Michael Boyer, love you, man.
Yeah, and not surprising. Obviously, most people in the beer industry knows how kind of beer-centric North Carolina is, which obviously does not fit to their ABC laws, right? We're probably still one of the most restrictive states as far as the alcohol laws go in their commission. So, and to be honest with you, when you said that they're one of the most, I guess, ones that ban the most labels out of any of the states, over 200. That didn't surprise me at all either, because they're pretty active.
Why do you suppose that is, Jeremy?
Well, I know this is going to sound crazy. It's completely in the beer industry, and even the locals here attribute it to the Bible Belt. You know, we are kind of probably the last dying section of the Bible Belt. You know, and you know, up the road from here is Samaritan's Purse headquarters. You know, and the Billy Graham Ministries, and it is still Southern Baptist in North Carolina is strong. And I think that it's kind of a lot of that is just that Southern culture, you know, is alive and well in a lot of people. And
there's a lot to be said for the good parts of that, though.
Oh, there is.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. There definitely is. You know, I haven't left North Carolina because the school systems. It's got a great public school systems that probably are attributed to that Bible Belt as well. But I do think that a lot of these restrictive laws in North Carolina is just a watered down from those Bible, you know, the Bible Belt laws and those sort of things. I grew up in Michigan, so, you know, I come from a place that you can pull up and buy a fifth through a drive-through and the store clerk will crack it open for you. And now we've lived here for a few decades. It's completely different. So, completely different take. But it's no surprise that this is one of the tougher ones that I guess in the beer industry wide.
Well, like Mark, I respect that. You know, I respect people's beliefs. You know, there's a difference though. Are there still dry counties in North Carolina?
Yeah, it's there are, and it's interesting you say that because so. I came up in a beer company in Boone. Our brewery that we opened, or that I was a part of in Boone, was the first brewery in Boone. So when 10 years ago at Appalachian State University, where Boone is, it was dry. So it's just recently transitioned over to being a county that you could buy alcohol in. We were the first brewery. You know, we hang our hats. If you look up Boone's Beer Pioneer, that is their mantra now for the brewery that I worked at. And we, you know, it wasn't easy. I mean, we went through all of it, city council battles, you know, all of the same stuff that you guys, you know, obviously on a very small local scale, but. Yeah, it is. It's pretty interesting, and there's definitely still some dry areas in North Carolina that, you know, alcohol by the glass or anything like that is just not a thing. And you know, Appalachian State University, to give you an idea, the student population's 20,000 students. Boone, the residents is less than 15,000, and it's only been within the last 10 years that it wasn't a dry area. So. Definitely, man. It's definitely attributed to that kind of the Bible Belt issues that North Carolina still deals with. But you know, the school system's great. I wouldn't change the school system for anything. But it's definitely definitely an interesting time. And it for me, you know, the beer industry, as big as North Carolina is in the beer industry, that's really surprising because they've kind of opened their arms to that, right? To kind of be that state that's, you know, has challenges the likes of Michigan's and, you know, others across the nation to say, hey, we're arms wide open for breweries, but some of the stuff that happens at the state level doesn't lead you to believe that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely incongruous, but yeah, it's known far and wide as a terrific beer state.
Yeah, yeah. And they've got some tremendous beer, still some tremendous beer in town, but obviously some very challenging times to get to the point. And a lot of these breweries still in the state of North Carolina are still kind of the beer pioneers. There's still a lot of things that happens that craft beer across the nation is really becoming more of a neighborhood store thing, right? I tell everybody, I've talked to a lot of people that call me and say, hey man, I want to open a brewery. And the first thing I ask them is, well, what do you think you're going to do with it? If you're going to stay neighborhood, go for it. You can make a living for your family and keep a roof over your head, be in your local tap room. But if you think you're going to go into distribution, forget it. But there's still that, there's a lot of that happens, kind of the local tap room, people that are up and coming and changing those laws in North Carolina that have kind of been prohibitive since then. But it's an interesting state for sure, and it was way interesting when I read the article, and it didn't surprise me. As soon as I seen lawsuit filed against NCABC over a brewery, I'm like, I can only imagine what the hell's going on with this.
Well, and you mentioned in the complaint about the shelf space, and I know that that's a big thing that craft breweries have been dealing with I read a book that said like the craft beer revolution should have taken off in the 90s, but shelf space and obviously distribution and the intermediaries and whatnot is what held them back. And you lose that shelf space. Who's going to move in? It's going to be InBev or something, and you're not going to get it back.
Yeah, when you think about it, that's a great point. When you think about this, when we started out, and this is 30 years sounds like a long time, but in business that's nothing. 30 years ago, there were probably 200 breweries in America. Now there are close to 9,000. Wow. For 5 years, 3 breweries opened every day. More breweries opened in 90 days than existed 30 years ago.
God bless America.
This competition there were prohibition wiped out most of the breweries. It was like 5 years ago that for the first time ever, there were more breweries in America than there were prior to Prohibition. It's just continued to increase.
I was going to say, yeah,
the third most widely consumed beverage in the world after water and tea and coffee.
I was doing my my capstone for college, marketing on this exact thing, as far as and just seeing the fact that there was, I think a couple of years ago, there was like 6,000 or 7,000, and now we're up over 9,000, and then we're growing still. Because a lot of people think that, COVID and the pandemic has slowed it down. And in some cases it has. But beer and wine, people bought more of that than anything else in 2020.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people made it a goal to shop local. When things first shut down, the first thing I did was go to my local 5 favorite breweries and stock up. We had to turn on the fridge in the garage thanks to COVID.
Yeah, it was the tap rooms that really took a hit. We lost 25% of our business when the on-premise shut down, but we picked it up. We picked it up in the liquor stores. But if you had a tap room, that was a serious hit. I really empathize with all of those brewers who hung in there. But it's it's both. It's seltzers. It's ready-to-drink cocktails. It's some of the other stuff. It squeezes beer. There's only so many square feet store, so we're always under attack. So sure, if you pull Flying Dog beer out, if our winter seasonal isn't there is no store that I know of that's going to say, keep that slot empty. We really like Flying Dog. We'll just keep it empty for 4 months until we get this summer and spring seasonal. That doesn't happen. There are 30 brewery reps waiting for an opening to get there.
Drooling.
Sure. I'd be one of those guys if there was an empty spot.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to make money, It's all about money for the store, for the breweries, for everybody.
Well, it's nuanced, but stores want uninterrupted supply. If you make a commitment to have the seasonals, they expect those seasonals to be there. They don't expect, we missed the winter. No problem, Jim. We really like you guys.
We got you in April, man.
Yeah, we'll be back at you. No worries. Thank God. I hope you're still here in April, because we're just gonna hold out until you get a label approved.
You have an empty space. They come in.
See that space right there? We're gonna put you.
Yeah, don't worry, Jim. We got you covered. It doesn't look that way.
Yeah, and
Harris Teeter, that kind of stuff. You need to keep your beer on the shelf.
Yeah.
And thanks to possibly being inspired by a lawsuit, North Carolina for the first time ever allowed a beer that they had banned. for the children, of course. And I'm going to put little hangers on every. I'm going to put little neck hangers on every 6-pack that say "Buy this for the children." If you care about children, buy this beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was it Phoebe Buffet says in Friends? The more we drink, the less there is for the children.
Honestly, though, you should do like it.
That's a great
funny
line.
if you did some sort of charity beer where X amount goes to like an orphanage or something like that, or like the foster care system.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
You know,
So you could be
I
like
might do
North
that.
Carolina. Yeah, they hate children. They hate orphans.
That would be hilarious. Like
Always-
X
I've
amount
always
of this.
diligently stayed away from anything that was underage. You know, when I speak at high schools, I never wear a Flying Dog shirt. Never. I just don't want to get into that. But I am planning to do neck
I
hangers.
thought he
that
was
say,
joking to begin with when I speak at high
Well, no,
school.
but I kind of like that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do the North Carolina ABC Children's Fund.
X amount
But
goes
the,
to like the college.
I love it. Love it.
I am going to probably put neck hangers on the bottles once we print this to say, warning, danger, caution, this beer was banned in North Carolina.
Hey, there you go. There you
Honestly,
go.
People hear banned and they're gonna want to get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Anytime you hear like, oh, this is
Right.
banned,
Forbidden
what's the
fruit.
big?
Yeah. Yeah,
What
for
you
sure.
can't have.
Jim, do you guys? What is your tap room situation? How many tap rooms? How many on-premise locations do you guys have?
I just have one. So we just we have some restrictions here, license-wise. But I have a tap room here. I have not reopened it since COVID. Similar to some other beer, Coors hasn't reopened theirs. It's a fairly tight space, and with this up and down surge, I didn't want to get into the summer and then into the fall. But also, I was in the restaurant and bar business for years. I owned or operated restaurants and bars.
Yeah.
And I don't want to compete with my customers. It sounds altruistic, but it just doesn't feel right to have 300 people here when there are so many empty restaurant seats in my hometown of Frederick and too few customers. So that was the real reason. But secondarily, you kind of see this COVID stuff. So I don't really plan to reopen until the restaurants and bars here in Frederick, Maryland, are thriving and business is back to normal, which I hope is next summer. And then we'll reopen.
If you're anything like the local restaurant industry here, finding help would be a challenge enough to make you wish you weren't open. It's been a nightmare here.
Even at the brewery, and we're I would say we're an employer of choice. We get great good reviews. One of the best places to work. I've always been understaffed because we compete with the government here in Frederick, Maryland, which is 45 miles from DC.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not been staffed since COVID, and we're constantly recruiting, constantly.
Yeah.
That's just for the brewery, let alone the tasting room.
Yeah, that would just be more of a headache. The whole hospitality industry down here. I mean, we've got local restaurants, so we're kind of a tourist location where I live at, and it's never stopped. Right? We're not Charlotte. We're a very small community in the mountains of North Carolina that everybody ran to during COVID. So the tourist industry hasn't stopped. But finding people to work in the restaurants has been a nightmare. I've got a friend that owns probably one of the best barbecue restaurants in town, and he's closed 3 days out of the week. And not because he wants to, but because he can't get anybody to work. It's just a nightmare now. But interesting times.
If I open the tasting room, I'd have to grab an apron and then have Mark come down as the guest bartender. We'd be the two of us working the whole place.
That sounds fun.
Man, I will tell you what, Mark's a good conversationalist. I bet you if you got him behind the bar, your tap room might kill it.
I'm terrible at like service though. I don't like people. I drove a cab for 4 years in college, and that was the only like service industry thing I could do. Because one, I could pull over and say, "Get the fuck out of my cab" if I didn't like somebody, and they'd be like, "But it's raining out." I'm like, "I don't care, get out." And then I'd always pretend to like be some other character. I'd like wrap a thing around my head and pretend I was from Algeria, and then pretend I didn't know where I was going. You get bored, you drive 36 hours in a row.
Yeah.
What city was that in, Mark? Was that
Boston.
DC?
Yeah.
Boston, yeah.
Telling somebody to get the fuck out of the cab's just basically another day in the life. Man.
Yeah, right. Get
Especially
the
there.
fuck out of here.
Experiences in Boston.
Keep your money.
Yeah.
I
That's
was in a
awesome.
cab in Boston. The guy got into an accident, and my door was like you couldn't open it. He gets out of the cab, slams the door, goes, "This fucking city." And I'm sitting. I was like kicking the door, trying to get out.
Did you just leave?
Cab, it's just stopped in traffic.
Yeah.
It might have been Mark. I don't know. It was quite a few years ago.
It probably was.
It could have been me. It sounds like what I would do.
Yeah. All right, let's go around and get our parting shots, Hoppy parting shots, and where can folks find you?
Everyone can find me, the Hoppy Mommy, on Twitter and Instagram. Parting shots as far as Hops Geek News. We just dropped our Batman episode. Batman Day is this Saturday, so Mash and I had a lot of fun recording that one. And next week we're going to be doing Doom Patrol because Season 3 is about to come out. And I just opened another beer. It said Imperial Pastry, and I thought it was a stout. It's a sour. It's Imperial Pastry Sour.
Oh, interesting.
But it's
What?
pretty good. It's from Prairie Artisan Ales. This is what
Nice.
happens when I just lean over and pull a beer out of the fridge.
So
But,
Prairie, those guys do some
Arsenal
tremendous stouts, right? That's like the birthday bomb, right?
Yeah, so that's what I thought I was getting myself into. I thought it was just going to be a mini little stout.
Oh,
I was wrong. But it's a good sour. It's very good.
is it?
So that's what I got.
I'd have been a little bit disappointed. I'd have been hoping for the stout. It looks like a great
Well, as
beer,
soon as
though.
I poured it, it smelled and looked like a sour. It definitely doesn't smell or look like a stout. But yeah, it's good. Very good.
Awesome. Appreciate you tuning in, Hoppy. I hope Miami loses this weekend.
I
Mash.
hope they win every game this year.
Mash, parting shots. What do we have to look forward to, and where can people find you?
For sure. Well, I apologize. I was having some. My child was in the middle of a meltdown, so I had to disappear for a liton bit. So apologies. To
Probably
you
because they
guys
saw
there.
the freezing season label.
He was very
Traumatized.
distraught. It's funny you mention that because my wife is from Raleigh, North Carolina, so maybe the
Oh,
North
yeah.
Carolina part of our son was like, "Oh my God, I'm in shambles." Right
I'm
now."
in shambles.
But no, seriously though, make sure we dropped a bunch of new merchandise for Hops Geek. So go to hopsgeeknews.threadless.com and get your hands on it. We got like a cool Halloween label. We got a cool one where Lauren and I'm in my Dunkin' Donuts actually, my Dunkin' Donuts onesie in the label, and we're putting our mascot Hopper, which is a hop. We're brewing him, so it's kind of a fun little thing. So make sure you get your hands on that. Yeah, Batman Day episode's out, and I'm going to the Boise State game, and hopefully soon I'm gonna have my beer is gonna be done and ready to hopefully let you guys all try in a couple weeks, and then aside from that, I should be brewing here with Woodland Empire here soon. So,
All right.
just brewing beer. I finally found something that I'm good at and enjoy in life, and just doing it.
Awesome, man. Keep your head down there in Mountain Home, and send me some updates what the game's like out there in Boise.
Oh yeah, you'll get plenty of updates, especially because I think my friend's gonna be the one driving. So who knows? Depending on how the game goes, you'll know.
You might need one of Mark's buddies out there. Mark, you got any referrals out there in Boise?
I got people everywhere.
He might need some help out there. Yeah, enjoy that game, Mash. Looking forward to getting some updates. Everything you do on Geeks. Mark, parting shots. Where can
Hey.
people find you?
You can find me at Randazza, RANDAZZA.com. And then, like I said, my the guy I wanted to plug was at Carolina Craft Legal, Michael Boyer, great guy. And I guess since everybody's showing what they've got to drink, I just moved in this house. All I have for alcohol is this, which is port wine that my uncle made.
Ooh.
That's
Oh
my
my
great.
God.
That's my great grandfather on there. So,
Oh, man.
yeah.
That's a great label.
That's pretty
Isn't it
awesome.
great? Yeah, that's him. Yeah, we actually would make wine every fall. We would stomp the grapes in his driveway, and you were only allowed to stomp if you're a woman. Nobody wants like guys' feet in their wine. And so this was, I think, this year. I think my daughter made this when she was one. She was one of the stompers.
Nice. So Michael Boyer just followed us on Twitter. Michael,
Yes.
if you're listening, we're gonna have you on as a guest. Let's talk.
There we go.
Let's talk beer law with Michael sometime, because I'm sure there's a ton of damn topics we could talk
Michael's
about with
awesome.
Michael.
You should do that.
Yeah, for sure. We will definitely do that. Mark, man, we appreciate you. We hope that we can maybe reach out to you for other issues that we might come across in the beer
Yeah.
industry that we can have you jump on and set it straight.
That'd be wicked fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll have MASH reach out to you because you guys can interpret each other's emails.
All right.
There's donkeys and
Hey,
the
all right.
Yeah, Donkeys and the Wicked.
You want to grab a large regular at 8 Eastern?
Yeah, Mark, appreciate you jumping in, man. Always good to hear from experts like you in the industry. And the best thing about it, Mark, is you're a cool dude, man. We could drink a beer together and have a damn ball, but really get down to business. So appreciate that.
All right.
Jim, parting shots,
hey.
and where can people find you guys?
You can find us at flyingdog.com. And hey, if you want to reach out to me, it's pretty simple. Jim, Jim, at flyingdog.com. Shoot me an email. Thank you for inviting me on the show, and Mark, tremendously appreciate it. We'll get beer down to Florida soon.
yes.
And I'll leave you with this thought. When the thought police come after us, we fight back. Fuck
Yeah.
censorship.
Yeah.
My kind of guy.
That's
very
my
anti-
client
I
there,
would-
man.
I
That's what
love
I'm
it.
talking about.
Yeah. Jim, it's been a tremendous pleasure to get to know you and Flying Dog a little bit more. I've known Flying Dog for several years, being a North Carolina guy, and being able to partake of your guys' product. Seen the headline, knew that we had to talk to you. Didn't realize at the time that there was so much behind the story that I didn't know about, but knowing everything behind the story and everything that you guys have been through makes it even more special to have you on tonight. Keep fighting that good fight for everybody else out there that can't do that. And with great partners like Mark, you guys are definitely making a tremendous impact, not just in the beer industry, but in our society, genuinely. Like I said, that is a tremendous fight that continues to need to be fought. Hey, it's been a man. I don't know if we're ever going to top this episode. This has been a great episode that obviously impacts everybody's life that lives in this country. The cream team. We might. Can we get in on that label? That will be. That will be
My
sure.
lawyer's gonna get me arrested. My lawyer got me arrested.
That'll be sure to be a hit for sure. Been a great show. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Obviously, you can follow us on anywhere at Hops News. Check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms. And if you're interested, hop into our Patreon group and help us pay some bills. It's over there at Hops News. If you search Hops News Patreon, you'll be able to find it there.
Man.
Yeah.